Deep in the Ukrainian Carpathians, where pine forests merge into dark thickets, there stood an old, abandoned house. No one could remember who once lived there, but people knew this: it was better not to approach that house, especially at night. They said a dark sorcerer once lived there, someone who could summon the souls of the dead and merge them with the bodies of anyone who dared enter the house. His curses were so strong that even the trees around the house had withered, and the ground had turned black. One day, 3 friends from the city, Andrei, Olha, and Marko, came to the nearby village. They were seeking adventure, as young people often do, and didn't believe in village legends. They heard about the cursed house and decided they had to see the place for themselves, laugh off the myths, and snap a few photos for social media. In the evening, they set out through the forest toward the house. The forest greeted them with cool air and an eerie silence that only deepened their sense of unease. The trees seemed to watch them in silence, and shadows lengthened, forming strange, ominous shapes. Finally, they saw the cursed house, dark, abandoned, with broken windows and a crumbling roof. Around it was nothing but lifeless earth, not even grass grew there. "So, ready for an adventure?" Andrew said, trying to lighten the mood, though even he noticed that his voice sounded strange in this gloomy place. "It's just an old house, nothing to be scared of," Olha said bravely, though she looked uneasy. They decided to go inside. Andrew pushed open the door, which creaked so loudly it made their skin crawl. Inside, it was dark and damp. Old furniture stood in place, covered in a thick layer of dust, while old icons hung on the walls, gazing at the intruders with empty eyes. Olha tried to turn on her phone's light, but her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly hold it. "Maybe we should turn back," Marko suggested, starting to feel a growing sense of dread. "We came all this way, let's see it through," Andrei replied. They began to explore the rooms one by one. On the ground floor, there was nothing special: an old table, empty jars, broken dishes. But when they approached the basement door, an intense chill ran through them. The door was locked with an old padlock, but a set of keys hung beside it. "What do you think? Should we check out the basement?" Andrew joked, though even his voice was trembling. Olha and Marko reluctantly agreed. Unlocking the door, they saw a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The smell was horrific, a mixture of dampness and rot. Marko gathered his courage and went down first, with the others following, careful not to stumble in the dark. As soon as they were all in the basement, the door slammed shut behind them. Olha screamed, and Andrew tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if it had fused with the walls. In the darkness, they began to see faint shapes on the walls, shapes that looked eerily like human figures. All 3 froze as they realized these figures were starting to move. Suddenly, they heard a raspy whisper filling the basement, "You shouldn't have come. You will stay here forever." Marko grabbed Olha's hand, trying to pull her away, but the darkness seemed to pull them back. The shadows moved faster now, and one of them began to close in on them. Andrew, feeling a wave of panic, screamed, but no one heard his cries. Out of the darkness emerged an old man with empty eyes, clothed in tattered rags. He stared at them with a hellish fire in his gaze. It was the sorcerer they had heard about. His voice was low, a blend of many voices at once. "Anyone who enters here becomes part of my collection. You now belong to me." The last thing Olha remembered was a sensation as if her soul was being pulled from her body and locked in darkness. The next day, villagers found 3 empty backpacks near the cursed house. No one ever saw Andrei, Olha, or Marko again. But the old folks say that if you enter that house and look closely at the walls, you might see 3 new shadows: 2 young men and a young woman, forever frozen in a silent scream.